example off the dome, right? He's a misogynist. It's not like, it's not subtle if you look at like his history and statements, okay? Do you think that Sean Connery would agree with the stuff that Andrew Tate says about women? I would be willing to bet no. I think that first and foremost, Sean Connery would probably think it's classless. Like, even if Sean Connery agrees with some of the misogynistic sentiment, it would be this like brash, abrasive, obnoxious, overly emotional, in some ways, I would say quite feminine hatred of women. I think he would think it's repellent for a lot of reasons that have less to do with like the underlying ideology of misogyny and more to do with the fact that it's fucking embarrassing. Like Andrew Tate's embarrassing, you know? And I think that's what we're seeing here too. You can be transphobic in the sense that you think that trans affirming surgery is mutilation and trans people are deluding themselves or whatever. If you believe those things, you're wrong and it's still hateful, but it is possible to believe those things without being malicious. You can, and I know it sounds crazy, you can believe those things and genuinely think you're believing them as part of like a holistic humanitarian belief system. Does that make sense? You can think those things and think like, okay, they're delusional, all right, but like you don't hate them. It's like what Christians pretend. Remember, Christians pretend. They say hate the sin, love the sinner, and they're bullshitting when they say that, of course, but it's that sentiment. A person can be like, bigoted but not malicious and self-aware in their bigotry. A person who is transphobic, for example, might find this trans woman right here in the little Jubilee setup personally like repellent, or may think she's delusional or something, but the desire to go up to her as so and do this big dramatic flourish, this performative demonstration of hatred towards her, that's the malice element, if that makes sense. Like that's the line between like, okay, so you're transphobic, and being like weird. Like I don't mean to imply that it's not weird to be transphobic. I think it's weird. I weird champ at transphobia every day, as a matter of fact. Don't come at me. You all get what I'm saying here though, right? And then, like, following that, a bunch of the women pop their own balloons. Because if you're capable of being performatively hateful to a person who's done nothing wrong to you, you could be performatively hateful to anyone. And there's a reason why domestic abuse and sexual assault and so on is higher in relationships with a conservative man. There's a reason why there's a bunch of negative, like, social tendencies, red flags that get caught up in that sort of thing. No, those two women did not pop their balloons. You can take from that what you want. But a lot of the women did. It's like when you see those 4chan schizos that are bemoaning the fact that no matter how based and red-pilled their views are, they still don't have a girl. They seethe at a multiracial, coalition of men out there getting laid and they can't. And it's not even because they're misogynistic. It's because they're repellently misogynistic, You get me, right? We get you? Well, that's great. Why do so many hot girls like conservative guys then? I think you might be like projecting a little bit. Maybe like you've had personal experiences that are weighing on you a little bit. There are billions of people on Earth. There are hot men and hot women who will go after morally odious people on either side. I'm talking about demonstrations of performative hatred, not about like a literal flat across the board inability for conservative men to get laid. That being said, I'm pretty sure there is literal evidence that conservative men have a harder time finding sex in relationships than, at the very least, liberal men. I think that I'm pretty sure I've seen, like, there are literally multiple surveys that all point in that direction. But that doesn't mean that of the billions of human beings alive, literally no conservative men get laid. That would be a bit of an overstatement. I think that would be pretty unlikely. FD Signifier did a really good video essay on conservatives being bad at sex. I mean, you're talking about a political demographic who thinks it's base to not eat pussy. Like, of course they're going to be bad at sex. Instantly calling it an incel take instead of reasonably explaining it like Vosh is moronic. Well, it's my job to explain things, but it's kind of an incel thing to say, right? Like, oh yeah, well then why do hot girls go after conservative men? That does kind of sound like an incel thing to say. There's a lot of like presumed bias loaded up in it. Like there's a lot of mental work that had to go into arriving at a place where you would put that statement forward. I'm not saying it makes you hateful or anything. I'm just saying like it's kind of coded in that direction, you know, but that's fine. We're all a little wacky sometimes. I've been known to be wacky. Hot women in question means generic bleach blonde short that gets drunk every weekend isn't insecure. All right, Elvin Alejandro Feliz Gonzalez. I'll put one forward for you. I think that's also kind of an incel comment too, a little bit. I think you might be that I think you might also be putting your own foot forward. Listen, it's hard to be normal about women. They're so contentious. It's a contentious subject. I get it, but you know, what is short? I assume they mean like short skirt, you know. I feel like we're all coming at it from different angles, you know? One of my big moments of maturity was realizing that all of the women that I thought I was better than because they were vapid and interested in partying and going out and being pretty and getting drunk and having like makeup on, I realized at some point in my life, a huge amount of my dismissive attitude towards them was based largely on just being jealous of how comfortable they were having fun. Maybe that's not my style of having fun. You know, I'm not really a club guy or a makeup guy or a short skirt guy or a heels guy, but they were having fun. And I think that there was a confidence in that I resented a little bit. And after that, I got over it. Now there's no issue, you know? After that, it's just like, okay, well, you know, whatever. Like you can still object, I guess, to like unhealthy behavior as if you, by the way, don't engage in it. And I don't engage in it from time to time. But you have to understand where those feelings are. He really said my entire name, Jesus. I have to lean in on the pronunciations I know I can do because chat calls me racist for not knowing how to pronounce every language on earth. So I need to like take the dubs where I can. They also call you racist for how to say words correctly, but they didn't that time. It's because I did a good job. No, it's because you add a weird accent to the words. It's not a weird accent. If you're pronouncing a foreign language, you have to speak in the accent of that language or you're literally not able to pronounce it. Like the accent is built into the pronunciation of the words, right?